So what we're going to take a look at now is working with audio, whether it be recording it, doing sampling, or just manipulating it. So what I have here is actually a few different waveforms that I've loaded up already. This is one of the reasons I was really amped to do this tutorial as well, because often you see a lot of stuff on synthesis and not so much on audio. So I love working with audio, so let's take a look at some of this stuff. Now these first three audio files that I have opened here, Cricket's Ambience Karma, Thunder Sterling, and Thunder Karma, are all ones that I've recorded myself, just out my window with some various mics during different times. So I'll unmute it, play it real quick, and we'll take a look at it. So obviously what you hear here is some crickets just outside my window, and you can also, what's funny enough is the microphone I was using is so sensitive when I had this pointed out my window, it was actually picking up a highway overpass, which is about, I want to say, a good mile or two away from my house. So it was picking up some of that ambient noise. And what I'm going to do is show you how to clean it up a little bit as well, with this as an example. Now if we take a look at the next one, we have a Thunder with this is the actual mic that I'm using to record right now my voice. So this is an actual studio condenser. The first one is a studio condenser as well, but I'll show you a picture of it in a second of what it actually is. But this is the actual microphone that I'm using to record my voice right now, and this is recording a thunderstorm. So you have the rain noise. There's also some pops and stuff in it, unfortunately. Now if we fast forward a little bit, you can actually see the thunder there. And if I go way over here, you can see, if looking over here, you can see where the thunder comes in a lot. So this was during an actual pretty intense storm. You can hear the rain hitting the ground really intensely. So if I obviously leave this as a backdrop while I was talking, like I'm saying, for atmosphere and ambience... Oh god, look at that clipping. Let me stop that real quick. So yeah, we'll go to another one. This is with another microphone again. This is a different time with Thunder. And we'll play this real quick. So you see, this time I caught Thunder along with crickets at the same time, so... This is going to say that you can record your own ambient type sounds. You can also pick up some... Yeah, it's funny. What's funny about this is it's pointing out my window. It still managed to pick up me typing on my keyboard when I did it. Possibly whistling, or that's a bird. Not sure when I recorded these. These are some older recordings. So now if we go to the next one, we have... This I got off of... freesound.org, which is where I go for a lot of field recording type samples when I feel too lazy to do it myself. So that's just simply, I believe that was from stairs in a subway station or something in London. So these are all just some natural sounds that you can record yourself or download from somewhere, and you have some natural ambience or ambient recordings. Another way that I go about doing it myself is through sampling. Sampling I'm not going to get so much into on here, just due to the legalities of it, but realize that you can sample from movies, you can sample from records, you can sample from, some of my favorite things to get ambience and stuff like that is those relaxation type things, like sounds in the jungle, stuff like that. And I actually have also bought entire albums that are field recordings, which is something I do myself as well. Just walking around with a tape recorder for like a day or so, or walking around with a digital field recorder, however you want to do it, and just recording the sounds around you and then taking the best bits from it. So what we're going to take a look at next, real quick, before I start showing how to clean these up and stuff like that, is this is what I'm going to be showing you as well, is manipulating actual samples. So manipulating something into a pad or a drone. So what I have here is from a Akai sample CD, I want to say. Something off of my library of samples and tricks. But this is a Ragdoon ethnic instrument, which is kind of hard to find samples from, but I'll show you what I did with it. So this is the initial sample that came on the CD. And that's all it comes with. So what I ended up manipulating it into, and what I'm going to show you how to do, is this. So essentially what we have here is something that might fit along the lines of something like, say, a film score. I actually think I have effects on that. Let me check real quick. I believe I put effects on that when I was messing with it. Yes, okay, I do have effects on it right now. Let me turn off the effect real quick. But we have something akin to something you might hear on like a Lustmord record, who's one of my favorite dark ambient producers, so. There it is without the reverb on it, so. Really, really fun to make stuff like that. And by the time we're done with this, hopefully you'll be able to do it too. So what we're going to do is take a look at the first sample that I have here, the cricket one, and how to clean it up. Now, when you're recording outside or out the window or something like that, there's a few different ways you can go about making it an easier job on yourself. Obviously, you want to have the highest bit rate when you're recording as possible. Right now I'm just working in 24-bit. And I believe I recorded it at 24-bit. I'm almost positive I did it. I usually do all my files. But if you can afford to do a higher quality like that, it's not really noticeable for me in my sound card, or otherwise I'd be doing it at 96. But yeah, before I start getting into audio nerdery, we are going to take a look at how to clean this up. So like I said, when I recorded it, we've got the cricket noises and we have the background noise from the highway that is coming from it. So we're going to take a look at how to clean out that background highway noise. And you can do this with any sample. So there's a few ways to go about this. Let me just set some loop points on it real quick. That way I don't have to keep going back and forth. Okay, so there's some decent loop points on it. So we have the loop on, we'll start it playing. So we've got the highway noises, and what we're going to want to do is try and figure out what frequency they're in the first place. So to do this, I already have my master channel set up here with Smexscope on it and Span. And Span is one I'm going to be using. Span is a free spectral analyzer plugin. So we'll open this up and take a look at what's going on with our frequencies. So since this is a quieter wave file, you can see there's stuff going on down at the bottom, which I'm guessing is going to be the beginning of our traffic noise right there. Right down into about the 150, like 160 range, I want to say. 150, 145. Okay, so we've got the numbers right there. And we also have our content up here. We've got more than just the crickets, it seems like. There's some other bugs in there as well. So that's at about 6.19K, so about 6K, and this is about 15K. So what we're going to do is go in and mess around with our EQ to start with. So I'm just going to use the standard EQ that comes in with Cubase on the channel, and we are going to put in a low pass, or a low shelf. And what I'm going to do is, okay, so since it started at about 6K, we're going to roll this to about 3000. You can see I already had this set up and I was messing around with it a bit. So that ekes out a little bit of it. It takes out a lot of the low-end content. We're also going to have to boost this back up, though, in order to make it usable. So when we boost it back up, still hear a little bit. And if we boost a little bit more, let's say we add another 10 dBs. Sounds a lot better. There's a few other tools that we can use at our disposal to make this even cleaner. So we could EQ it a little bit more. Just bring out the high end a little bit more, depending on where we want to bring it. And this is also how you can pinpoint where your problem frequencies are if you've never done this before. So what I'm going to do is turn this back down before I re-enable this. So if we take this with a narrow band and sweep across, with it peaked up, you can notice where your problem frequencies are. It brings them out a lot quicker. So we can see right around there, problem frequencies. All this frequency content that we don't want to have in our final recording. So we'll just take that off. That does a lot of the job. That's just a quick and dirty way of getting it set up. Another way we can do this real quick, let me pause that, get this back here. We've disabled our EQ, so what we're going to do next is go to Dynamics. This is another nice little trick. If you open up a multi-band compressor, here you can do a lot of work with it. With some of EQs, you don't get the amount of dB cutoff that you want to get, that you can get with like a multi-band compressor plugin. So with a multi-band compressor, you can essentially kill off an entire frequency range, whereas with a filter or something like that, you're still getting some that ekes through. So what we'll do is get it playing again. We'll just bring these down all the way. So we already know where the content is. Still hear a little bit of it. So what I'm going to do is crank the thresholds on these so it completely kills those off. And what I can do here is I can compress it as well and bring it up in volume. The specific frequencies. Now if I crank that up, also bring this down a little bit. Depends on where I want my frequencies to sit. Obviously, with this you can just mess around with your compression settings. Like this has auto on for the release and everything. But this is another quick and dirty way to do it. See, now if I turn that back on, you'll see where the problem lies on that. Turn this one back on. Hear a whole bunch more. Mute that. And obviously you can do both of these to taste, so if I was to compress this even further, say the higher range, I can adjust the volumes as well. So this, you can control your individual frequencies a lot easier sometimes than actually doing it with EQ. And then the fun thing is if you do it in tandem, so we already have these done, so clean it up even further. So this is our end result from that quick cleaning that we just gave it. Now if we stop it, let me just remove the 10 dBs and turn this off and turn off the multiband compressor back to the original sound. A lot dirtier, turn on the multiband compressor. Turn on our shelf and EQ. A lot cleaner recording. So that's one way that you can deal with filthier recordings or getting rid of unwanted noise. Another one is to actually bring a isolation booth with you somewhat, or a reflection filter. You can easily DIY build one yourself, and I'm going to show you some of the products you can do that really quickly. Now what we have here, I just googled collapsible storage cube. Now you can find these in all sorts of places. They make 14-inch varieties and 12-inch varieties, I believe. This is kind of the style that you want to go after. You can find them at Walmart, stuff like this. They're usually just collapsible, so they're portable. The other thing that you're going to need is acoustic foam. And you can get some sheets of Orlex really quickly. So let me show you what a sheet of Orlex looks like. So here you go. You have Orlex foam wedges. You can usually find these at any music retail shop. They're also used for acoustic treatment around rooms. But all you have to do is really take your collapsible cube, if I'll go back to this real quick, right here, and you're going to want to line the inside of it with your foam. So just cut it to fit it, and then you can just place your microphone in the center. You just have to say cut a hole right there to run your XLR cable into it, set your microphone in there, and it essentially isolates it from whatever direction you want to point it in. And that makes it easier to record when you're outside a lot of times, if you're doing a lot of that. And unfortunately, I would show you a picture of the microphone I'm using. If you don't do it and you're not careful at times, the microphone I'm using actually got ran over by a car. Still perfectly usable, but yeah, I got a little bit too close to the road while doing field recordings, and yeah, the top capsule got a little bit dented, to say the least. But with this, you actually have a portable type of vocal booth or isolation booth. Now I'm going to show you pictures of some of the microphones I was just using. So the one right here, the first one, the Cricket Ambience Karma, the one that I've been demonstrating with that. Let me close this and maximize this again. So the one that we just did that cleaning up off of, open up a picture of it real quick. This is a picture of it. So this is how small the microphone is. This actually fits in my hand. It's a actual condenser mic, so you do need phantom power for it, but the nice thing about it is you can pretty much fit it anywhere. It's originally a drum mic, and these things cost, I believe it cost me like 20 bucks for 2 of them or something like that. Something ridiculously cheap. I'll post a link to it along with the text file with these videos. Now if we take another look, this is also from the Karma Mic Company. This comes in handy a lot of times. This is an inline attenuator and phase inverter. So say you want to record initially with your phase already inverted. without having to do it in your DAW. This will do it automatically for you, and it also has dB reducers. So say you're recording a really loud source and you don't have access to, say, your input controls or something like that, or you just want to do it straight from your line, you can attenuate this up to negative 20 dBs. And as I recall, this was cheap as hell. I got this. You'll see when you go to the Karma website, they are a boutique shop, and they do a lot of really nice stuff for cheap. Like, I'm using a dual pop filter from them. I usually don't endorse products, but yeah, I will endorse the hell out of them because they are cheap and really good quality stuff. And great for beginning people who haven't been doing that much recording, who are getting into microphones. And close that, and we'll take a look at this. This is another one of my favorite little ones. This is actually a kick drum mic, an Audix D2. This is an older kick drum mic. It's been beaten around, you can see. But yeah, this is another one of my go-to mics. Let me go and see if I have a recording of it on here real quick. So here we go. I just loaded up a sample from it with the rain, kind of the similar type thing that we were doing before. So we'll just play that real quick so you can hear what it sounds like. Now this is also the difference between a condenser and a dynamic mic as well, so it's always good to have a wide arsenal of tools at your fingertips. Sounds like I have a reverb on that. Let me double check. Oh, of course I do. Turn that off. Whoops. So once again, we can do some clean recording for it and then mess around with it. And you can also hear a train in the background on it. Like I said, we have this highway and train station, so when I'm recording this stuff, you never know what kind of can pop up from it. Now we're going to take a look at how I did this with the Ragdoon and how I time stretched it. Now there's a few different ways we can do this. I use a few different time stretching tools, which I'm going to show you, and have links to in the text file. So we'll solo it again real quick. So we'll take a look at this with the default Cubase processing. So if I go to Process, Pitch Shift, every DAW should have something similar to this, or your actual audio editing program. Say you use something like Wavelab. So what I have is my bass frequency there, and what I can do is mess around and preview it. So this is just pitch shifting it. And it's got time correction enabled, so if I turn off time correction, turn on time correction, now we'll go down further, turn off time correction, so we're getting somewhat similar, but that's not going to bring it all the way out like I have with this. And what I use for this is Paul's Extreme Time Stretch, and I will open that up really quickly. Now this is a freeware program that allows you to stretch your sounds and do a lot of different things with them as well. So you can basically turn anything into an ambient soundscape with this, which is amazing. So we'll just open up a random audio file. Let me go and find something. My computer, okay. So what I've done is opened up our initial ragdung sound, and what we're going to do is mess around with this and Paul stretch. So it defaults to a stretch ratio of 8.04x. You're going to notice there's a lot of parameters in here, and I'm going to show you what they do. So what we'll do is play it real quick with what it defaults into. So we can stop that really quick. So that's going to default it into a 24-second file. So if we take a look at the different methods we have stretch, hyper stretch, and shorten. Now if I want to shorten it, I can do like so. Play this really quickly. So that essentially turns it into a stab. Now what we're going to do is go to hyper stretch, because that's what we're going to be looking at. So yeah, if I was to leave it like this, it would actually render it into a sample that is 1 year and 53 days long. I do not think so. So what we'll do is do it at a scope of, say, let's make it a minute long. So we'll take a look here. Stop it. Roll it back to the beginning, or close to it. Play it. So you notice that it hasn't done any of the pitch stuff type yet. So this is how we get a nice little extreme blur to it. So if we go to the window size right here, what this does is how many samples it does. So this is the resolution of how it's sampling. So the higher up, the more resolution it's going to do, and the longer it's going to take to render as well. So it can be a pain. It's going to vary on your system. And the type, you have the various different types of time, the actual time stretching that it's doing, the different algorithms. These you can mess with yourself and look up on the documentation. I'm not going to explain all of them. I just tend to stick with the default. Now if we go to the process tab right here, we have some various options. We can add harmonics, we can do some pitch shift to it as well, which is usually what I like doing to these. Octave mixer, we have filter, total noise, compress. There is a lot of things. So let's do a little bit of messing around with this while it's playing. So if we go to pitch shift, stop it. So we'll bring it down 12 cents. Bring it down 24 cents, which is 2 octaves. $36. So we're going to turn that off real quick. We can do an actual frequency shift by hertz as well. So what we'll do here, we'll shift it down 40 hertz. Turn that off. We also have octave mixer. So what we can do here is mix in the lower octaves. So we can go down 2 octaves, mix that in. I should actually turn off the default octave as well. So if we turn that off and just go down 1 octave, we get something similar to what I had originally. Pitch shift it down a little bit more. Now if we take a look at the harmonics, you can see this does something pretty interesting. This generates pure harmonics based off of it. So we can turn that off because that's going to mess around with our actual default settings. Take the spread of the actual sound with the bandwidth. Turn it off. We'll narrow the spread. Versus turning it all the way up. That once it actually plays. This is one of the other problems with this program that can be a bit of an issue is as you're using it, it's a bit of a resource hog. Tonal noise. Add some tone to it, go back to noise. We also have compression. Filter. So we can cut out the whole top end. This is just an example of what you can do with, say, one default sound. Now, something that's interesting that you can do, that you've probably seen online before, but we'll do it for argument's sake. We'll open up audio file. We are going to open up a actual full song and show you what you can do with this program. So I'll pick something incredibly annoying. I should pick something on my own, but let's see what I have just sitting here. Okay, so I have one of my songs loaded up. We will turn off all the options we have here. Go to parameters. We have on extreme stretch. That would stretch it to an hour. So without stretch... Well, stretch is still on, but if I stretch it even further... Now we can do the same thing we did over here with the octave mixer. Now obviously you can hear the hat sounds through it quite a bit. There's actually a really good example of this if you look on Google of Justin Bieber's Baby being turned into a complete ambient song, which is something that's worth taking a look at. But next I'm going to show you another stretching tool. So what I have open now is called the Akai, and the Akai emulates the old Akai samplers, the time stretching algorithm that were on those, which is one of my favorite types of samplers out there. So I figured I'd show this off since this gives you some of that old school kind of jungle sound to it, and can be used in conjunction with your other time stretching methods, and it's one of those non-traditional ones. So we'll take a look at this. You have two algorithms you can use, the revised one and the classic one. Classic one is more true to the sampler. The revised one lets you do a few things you couldn't do on the samplers. So we have our ragdung sound open already. It's 3 seconds and 608 milliseconds long. So you'll see the first control that we have here is the time factor of how much we want to stretch it. So if I wanted to go to 50%, I could and make it faster. Or what we're going to do is make it longer. So we'll go to 200%. Preview it. So we also have here our cycle length, and this is how what we're going to do is reduce that to 500. So this is how many samples it takes as it's doing it. So you can take it all the way down to 20, which is a very low detailed type of stretching. Or we could go all the way up to 2000. Now if we go to the classic algorithm, you'll notice it's a little bit more transparent, or apparent what's going on with it. The other one's more transparent with what it does. This is more apparent and more true to its roots. So if we go to 1500, and you can also transpose on here as well. Transposing is pitch shifting, so if we go down -12, we're going down an octave, preview it. Now if we turn our cycle length all the way back up, or we could go the opposite direction, pitch it up an octave. And we're just going to type that in, 12 plus 12. Now the more I actually stretch, the more it'll be apparent what the cycle length does. So if we do this by 400, and we'll pitch it down just because I do not feel like listening to something shrill at the moment. Transpose it down a octave. Stop the preview, and we'll go down to, say, a 500 cycle length. Now what I'm going to do real quick is pause and load up a vocal sample so you can understand a little bit more what is going on with it. So what I need to do is reinitialize it real quick. I have just loaded up a vocal sample. We'll put it at 1600. Transpose it to 0. So this is our default vocal sample right here. Yes, lovely, isn't it? So what we'll do is stretch it by 200. Take it down to the minimum cycle length. And all the way to the maximum. Go to the revised algorithm. And finally transpose it with this. So let's go up an octave. So we have a jungleized chipmunk right there, version of Pastor Troy. So that's an example of what you can do with the Kaiser. Now, in the next part of the tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to layer different sounds with this and bring this together into a composition. Right now you're probably saying, okay, what can I use these for besides maybe layer them a little bit into my songs, or how can I make these into an actual song element? And another aspect I didn't really cover too well, since I kind of include it in field recording, is Foley. If you're unfamiliar with Foley, I suggest you look it up on YouTube, but basically what it is improvising sound effects. So say I wanted to simulate a bone breaking, what I could do is go outside, grab a branch, and snap it in front of my microphone. So stuff placing like that, or taking, say, rice and dropping it on a piece of tin or something like that to simulate rain on a tin roof. There's all sorts of different crazy stuff you can do with Foley, and that's how you get a lot of sound effects and stuff like that in games and movies and TV shows. It's also how you can enhance other recordings, which I'm going to be showing you in the next part.